Welcome to ALLCAPS podcast number 788. My name is Steven Wilkinson. I am Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party's president. And that was Dr. Hook, and I got stoned and I missed it. I put that song on because I thought today I would talk about recreational use and recreational users. And I was a bit sad, there's a bit of a stereotypical look at recreational using cannabis, but that's what most people have. Nowadays, when you talk about people who are not for legalizing cannabis, what they'll say is they'll say, oh, this stuff today is so much stronger than what used to be back in the day. And I like to disagree. And I got a little story to tell you about that, why I disagree. I think I was 19, living in a flat in Sydney, so that would have been 1979, and one of my flatmates' younger brothers came down from Mackay, Queensland to visit his bigger brother in Sydney, and he was quite a newbie. He wasn't really experienced in cannabis use, and one day he smoked too much and he started freaking out and had psychosis. His heart was beating really fast. He thought he was going to die. A few other thoughts was flying through his head. He didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, so I suggested, let's go see the local doctor up the street. So we went up to the street to see the GP. I waited outside, he went inside, and then after a couple of minutes, this woman sort of rushes out past me and up the road to the phone box, and I thought, well, that was a bit weird. And you have to remember, this was before mobile phones. So I went in and I said, oh, where's the receptionist? And he goes, oh, I told her that I own cannabis and she just went outside. I said, oh, well, I think she's calling the police. Let's go. So he whizzed out, and he was heart still going crazy and whatnot. I just want to go home. I was over it. So I suggested he go to St. Vincent's in King's Cross, because being King's Cross, doctors up there would have seen everything. So put him on the train, and off he went. I went home and probably got back on the bong and listened to some more Bob Dylan. And a few hours later, or 3 or 4 hours later, he came back, sort of all sheepishly, and I'd forgotten he'd even gone. And so I asked him, I said, well, what happened? He said, oh, I went to the emergency ward, and I told the doctor that I'd been smoking too much cannabis. My heart was beating really fast, and I think I'm going to die. So he just told me to sit down and he'd get back to me. And 2 hours later, he walked past, he stopped, he looked at me and said, oh, how are you feeling now? And the guy told him that he's feeling okay. So the doctor said, oh, we'll go home. So that told me that even doctors back then knew that psychosis was a short-term thing, and all it needs is just to sit down, be quiet, settle your mind, and everything will be fine. So I learned real early about there was no danger. When I first started smoking cannabis, I wasn't an activist. I didn't know any activists. I never even heard of activists. When I went to Australia, same thing. And the laws in Australia were very harsh for cannabis. When I was there, if you were caught with one cannabis seed on your person, the court would see that as a potential pound, and that was prison time. So you had to be very careful. It was a very, very careful time. So not many people people learned not to stick your head above the pulpit, because if you did, the odds are you would go to jail. And that's the sad thing, because that stopped people standing up for their rights. Further down the track, in the 90s, it became a wee bit more vocal. There was a whole feral scene was happening at the time. And I remember going to one protest, and I went as an experiment, because I was a stoner, so I didn't go to protest. I was paranoid. I didn't want to see cops, because cops would stand there and they'd just take your photo. Walk around, just stand there taking people's photo of the crowd. It was just pure, just horrible feeling. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to go on this protest, and I'm going to go and do an experiment. So clean myself up, made myself look good. I made my sign, and I went there, and I think there was TV, Channel O, Channel 9, Channel 7, ABC were there. And I got myself in front of every camera every camera, all different parts of the protest, and I made sure that I was seen by all channels. And then arranged with some friends that night to watch the 6 o'clock news, and there was not one second of footage of me and my son. And the reason why was because I was clean cut, and I was holding up a sign that said, "Pot is fun." And that was not the message they want to push. The media were pushing, they would film the normally girls, especially pretty girls, the girls that had not much on because it was Queensland, so they never did anyway. And students, that's who they would film. So the people who are sitting at home watching the news would go, "Oh, well, you know, once they get a job and get into real life, they'll understand." And that's what they try to portray. And even today, the media is manipulating us. The media, if you listen to the media when it comes to cannabis, you will hear the word decriminalization all the time. And also, I think what's happened is that the medicinal movement has credibility because it's normal people, because pain affects normal people as well. So what we're having is we have these clean-cut people standing up going, "We want cannabis as medicine. We want cannabis. Why can't we have cannabis?" And now they're focused on one part of cannabis, and it's CBD. And they're ignoring THC. And they have found out that they can get CBD from industrial hemp. That's the low THC cannabis. So what's going to happen is we're going to see cannabis still illegal. We're not going to have it. The referendum question is, I think it's coming out to be the question is, should small amounts of cannabis be legal for individuals? Well, it's not going to be actually that question, but that's basically where they're heading with it, is can individuals legally have a small amounts of cannabis on their possession? And we're all going to vote yes. And what are we going to get from that? We're going to get decriminalization, because it's still going to be illegal to sell cannabis. It's still going to be illegal to cultivate cannabis. So unless you've got these small amounts which are legal, so that's decriminalization. That's we don't want that. Nobody wants that. Recreational users were the core backbone of the normal organisation back when I came to New Zealand in the 90s. And it's been a long time. The older you get, there's more things you have to remember, so there's more things you forget. And Normal had a huge following. They were doing really well. But there was a internal political change with Normal on a move, and they started feeling they didn't need stoners because stoners were embarrassing them, and they wanted to be seen as more legitimate. So there was a move within Normal to remove stoners, and so now they don't have support. There's nothing there. It's a name with a few people. I mean, it's a bit like Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party. It's just a small core of people, and the media just keeps talking about decriminalisation. So I think it's time for the stoners to hop up and show their support. Because if they don't show their support, it might be a case of, I got stoned and I missed it. I don't need to do anything because it's everybody. I have to. They're all out there protesting. They'll get it. When they get it, we'll get it. That's all good. Oh, I'll pretend I'm sick. I'll just get a card. I'll be right. But no, because what they're looking for, use of cannabis for people who are dying. If you're not dying, you're not getting cannabis. And if you're not dying within a year, you're definitely not getting cannabis. Or if you're dying and you get cannabis and you don't die within a year, they take the cannabis off you. So it's not a good look. It's not a good outcome for anybody. Removing cannabis from the Misuse of Drugs Act, regulating it, then everybody wins. There's a true and honest, broad spectrum medicinal market. There's a recreational market. There's a, if you support Aotearoa Legalisation Party, I'm having trouble with my lips today, we'll have a boutique market, which we see as one of the most important parts of legalising cannabis. Because if you look at Colorado, it's the big boys that are getting in there and producing the cannabis, because there's a lot of restrictions and constrictions on what happens and how to grow cannabis over there. We believe in Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party that the government is not focusing on the small regions, and a lot of the small rural sectors are doing it hard. And it'd be quite nice that if the cannabis has been or does get removed from the Misuse of Drugs Act, and there does become a recreational market, that in that market there's sort of a microbrewery sort of setup where an individual can purchase a license, maybe for $50 for a license, to allow that individual to grow cannabis of the strains that he chooses, she chooses, they choose, from seeds they've imported from overseas, to sell to local outlets as like it's a boutique market. So if tourists come to that area and they want to try a bit of cannabis, and they go, oh yeah, I can get this one, but I can buy that in Auckland, I get that one, but I can buy it in Wellington. Oh, look at that, oh yeah, I saw that in Christchurch. Oh look, here's, what's this? The wizard's weed. The wizard's weed? What's the wizard's weed? Oh, it's a local guy, he lives up the valley, yep, he grows the most amazing pot, he's an awesome person, and he puts a lot of care in his plant, and he loves his plants, and this is a nice rada blah blah blah, and people go, oh, let's try a bit of that. So, and the thing is once that's sold, that money goes to the wizard who lives in the community, and then that money that he has goes to the supermarket, goes to the cinema, goes to the coffee shop, goes to maybe even the local bottle shop. That money stays in the community. And there's a lot of small communities in the rural sector in New Zealand today that is doing it hard. And that is just a great way to keep money in that community. If the pot's been grown by a huge company down in Canterbury, then yeah, sure, it's cool to go in there and buy it, and yay, it's nice, and it's what it is. But when you hand that money over, it jumps in and disappears out of where you live. It's not getting circulated within the community. And I think that's important. I live in a small community, and it's quite interesting because in winter, companies like pot growers, because they pay their bills in cash. Because in winter, everyone does it hard. And so it'd be nice to legitimise that. Government can take a little bit of tax off it, and everybody's happy. All sectors of New Zealand can boom. Here at Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, we feel we care about people. There's no one in our group who's sitting there going, wow, when it's legalised, I'm going to open up the shop, I'm going to make so much money, and I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to be famous because people go, oh, come to his shop because he's the guy he was the guy who was fighting for the pot, yeah. None of us have that. I actually asked everybody in the old guard of Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, I said, what would you do if they legalised it? Well, I'd roll up a 3-paper doobie and put my feet up and celebrate. And that's what we want. But we just want to see a law that's unjust removed, because there's no reason to have that law. None at all. None at all. It's less harmful than alcohol, but we have alcohol. It's less harmful than tobacco, but we have tobacco. If you can see the logic in that, well, yay, more power to you, because there's no logic to that. There's none at all. Cannabis was illegalized through fear, and when then for greed. And that's time to stop. Money can be collected to be spent in our districts, and that's the fair thing to do. So if you're a recreational user and you don't want to stand up and say, yep, I smoke pot, or hey, I will, yep, I smoke pot. Smoked pot for recreational for years. Loved it. Loved the feeling. Nothing beats a good buzz from a nice piece of pot. I always used to say, the only bad pot is pot that's got tobacco in it. That's the only bad pot. All pot's different. Different effects, but they're all nice for me. But now, like I said, it's just medicinal. But I'm asking the recreational people to get up, support Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, because we're going to be your voice. We're the ones that stood up and fought for the cause when it wasn't popular, when the cops did come to your house, where the cops did put pressure on you. We stood strong and we worked our way through that. And we are here now still, and we have the same objective, and we would like your support. Because think about it, when Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party started and formed, there's not really one voice was asking for medicinal cannabis. Not then. It was all legalised pot because everybody who smoked liked it and didn't feel they needed to go to jail. So this is a plea for your support. Whoever you vote for last election and election before, think about it. Did they give you what you wanted? Did you get what you wanted? Because you know, if you support us and we have enough support behind us, then we can get representation in, and we're not going to be like other activist parties that turn political once they got in, because we have one goal and we have it written down that once that goal is achieved, the party disbands. We go home. That's it. Leave the politics to the politicians. Let us just be who we want to be in one of the most loveliest countries in the world. So, like I said, if I did say, recreational users now in the whole cannabis movement spectrum are that embarrassing group at the back who you just hope don't turn up because they all look scruffy all the time. Well, we, Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party, are the same. That's how political parties see us. We haven't been asked to put any input into the question, the referendum question. We haven't been asked for any input into looking at changing of any laws on the books. And the reason why we haven't been asked is because, like that uncle you don't want to come to dinner because he always just says things, that's what we do. We are hard line. We're not there to horse trade. Seriously, we're not. We'll be there to make sure that the New Zealand government, whichever party's in, abides by the voice of the people. Because if you don't have somebody inside, because the Greens aren't going to do it for you. They're supporters of decriminalisation. I mean, they didn't even like cannabis. That was their embarrassing uncle for a long time. But they're not going to be there for you because they've got other horse trading that they're more interested in. The only party that's going to be there for you is Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party. Because if we don't get the support, then after 2020, if New Zealand doesn't get what they want, it's another 3 years. Another 3 years of no cannabis. So please think about it. I think it's very important. I believe that 2020 is cannabis's year, but what we have to make sure of that being cannabis's year, it's cannabis year for the people, not cannabis's year for corporations and pharmaceutical companies that's going to make money from it, but cannabis's year for the people. So be strong, don't waver. On election day, you just walk in there and you tick the leaf. Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party is going to be your insurance policy, because we will guarantee we will do what our party name states. We can't do anything else. We're not Aotearoa Decriminalised Cannabis Party. We're not Aotearoa Medicinal Cannabis Party. We are Aotearoa Legalised Cannabis Party. So tell your friends, yep, we love stoners because we love cannabis. And there's nothing wrong with stoners. And most people, and that's the majority of people who use cannabis, use it safely, responsibly. It's only a small percentage of people who need protection. And the way to do that is if cannabis is legalized and regulated, if they have a bad experience, there's a place for them to go to for help without fear. Because young people, because they don't understand the process of a lot of things in our society, think if they're really stoned and they go see the doctor's going to tell the police, and then they're stuffed. So let's remove cannabis from the Misuse of Drugs Act. Let's have an amazing year in 2020. Let's celebrate for the whole year. This is Steven Wilkinson, signing out until next time. I hope you have a good day, stoners, because there's nothing wrong with being stoned. But just remember, all the things that you have to do in your day, do them first. If there's some things you can do when you're stoned, do them last. But enjoy the day. Great. See you later. Bye-bye.